How's it going, everybody? My name is Cam White, and welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope. What the fuck is going on in the universe for August 10th through August 16th of 2020? Thank you guys so much for being here with me this week. I'm really excited. I get to talk about the astrology with you guys. Thank you for subscribing if you're already subscribed. If you comment all the time, I see them. Thank you. And thank you for liking. I appreciate you guys liking this video. It really helps me out. And sharing this. When I'm sure right now you clicked on the video and I had a thumbnail, but I'm not sure what in this moment before I make the thumbnail and everything, I'm not sure what thumbnail I'm going to choose or what I'm going to do, because I don't really know how to. I don't want to say I don't know how to describe this week, but this week's kind of weird in the context of looking at next week. Because when we kind of look at stuff through the macro lens for a second, you know, we're getting ready to do the Mars retrograde dance, you know, as it's going to be squaring Saturn, squaring Pluto, squaring Jupiter, and then we're going to go into like the next few months, and these next few months are really fixated on the same things. Like there's not a whole lot of change going on in the next 6 months. It's really, you know, all of our focus is kind of in one area. But this week, I don't want to say builds up to it, but this week kind of like, it's just an interesting prelude to what the next few months kind of look like. So let's go ahead and start talking about it before I waste any more of your time. Let's go to Monday. On Monday, we're going to be having the moon enter Taurus. As it enters Taurus, it will be conjoining Uranus, and then it will eventually be squaring Mercury. And at the same time, Mercury is going to be squaring Uranus on Monday. So, you know, this is pretty obvious. This is going to be some pretty tense energy. This is the moon going into a fixed earth sign where we're going to be very, like, stubborn in our ways. We're going to be like, yeah, this is how I feel, and it's not changing. And as the moon conjoins Uranus, there's this erratic, volatile nature. This is kind of like, you know, the moon in Taurus can be like, you could just be like, you know what? No, I'm not going to move. You know, I'm not going to do this. You know what? No, I'm not going to change. Like, you can have that kind of sense to it. But the moon conjoining Uranus too, there's this unpredictability, right? There's this electric energy. There's this instability. And so the moon in Taurus doesn't really have that. You know, you can't just be immovable right now. Like you have to be able to kind of go with the flow of things at this moment. But why I'm saying that is the moon and, you know, the moon is going to square Mercury. Mercury is also going to square Uranus during this time. So this is kind of like while Mercury's in Leo, where it's, you know, the way that we communicate our thoughts, our ideas, they're very outspoken, right? They're in the light. They're for people to see. It's very dramatic. It's entertaining almost in a sense. As Mercury squares Uranus and as the moon's in Taurus conjoining Uranus squaring Mercury, this is kind of like, you know, maybe going out of your comfort zone to doing something new may not exactly be popular at first. There's a lot of inventive things that may not be popular at the beginning, but end up being very popular later. And I feel like on Monday, with the moon in Taurus, it's just going to be really easy to feel, you know, grounded, stubborn, like kind of stuck in our ways. But there's this like volatility to it as it's squaring Mercury and Leo. Like Mercury and Leo can just make us feel very prideful, very like, this is how I feel and I'm justified and righteous in feeling this way. And this is just how it's going to be. And that's how it's going to be. There's no changing it. There's no moving it. Try to be a little bit more flexible. The moon in Taurus conjoining Uranus, like you need to be able to go with the flow. You can't just be, you know, like stubborn, stuck in your way. With that squaring Mercury, that stubbornness or that rigidity of not wanting to be of wanting to be immovable isn't going to get you far. You're going to go nowhere fast. With Mercury and Leo, it's kind of like, you know, it's not going to look exactly the way that you want to, but you can get some type of creature comforts. Like you can, I don't even know how to explain this. Just like, it's going to be frustrating. Try not to be too stubborn about moving things. Your ego's going to get in the way. That's okay. It happens. The best thing for you to do is to really look at, like, how can you get less in your way? Like Mercury, like when you have fixed signs squared, like fixed signs want things to stay the same, right? When we talk about fixed signs, we're talking about the fixed seasons. So we're talking about, think about Taurus season, Leo season, Scorpio season, whatever season it is, it's staying that way. It's fixed. It's not changing, right? Scorpio season, everything's dying. It's Leo season, it's fucking hot. Taurus season, everything's growing. Aquarius season, it's dead of winter. Things stay that way. So I just think on Monday with the moon, for one, the moon being about our emotions, how we feel, conjoining Uranus, it's very volatile, it's very, unpredictable, and it's in Taurus, it's very immovable. It's like, you know what? No, I'm just going to do this instead. I'm not going to do anything else. But Mercury in Leo is kind of like egging us on to like be like, yeah, this is, you're righteous in thinking this way. And it's also kind of like saying it in a very loud, proudful, entertaining way. It's just try not to be a douchebag on Monday is the best way to put it. Try not to be a douchebag. Try not to be super stubborn, because it's just going to be really frustrating for you. I mean, like, this is one of those situations when you, especially like when you get a moon square Mercury, there are no winners. You know what I mean? Like if you pop off on someone, and this isn't necessarily a pop off on someone, so to say, I think Mercury squaring Uranus can definitely like, a lot of unpredictable things happen. Stuff that kind of was out of your control kind of goes off. Very mercurial things. So like logistical issues, planning issues, mercurial stuff, like just a really annoying kind of stuff, technology issues, communication issues that can go, that can kind of pop off randomly. But, this just seems, again, I just want to say it's going to feel uncomfortable starting Monday. We need to get through the rest of the week, so I'm just kind of blabbering on with this. Anyway, yeah, just try not to get in your own way and just expect things to kind of pop off in a weird way. But just instead of taking sides, just be quiet. You don't have to take sides. You can just be a silent, creeper like Taurus. Like Taurus is so, by the way, I just need to say this. Scorpio can be so obvious about the way that they do stuff. Like Taurus, in my opinion, is one of like the most low-key signs. Like they can just, like Taurus people could be like murderers and you would never know because they're just like doing their own thing, not in anyone's business, not too extreme. They just do their own thing, very low-key about stuff. Try to be low-key about Monday. As we move forward, Tuesday, that's when we're going to be having the moon make a trine to Jupiter and Saturn before it enters Gemini, which that won't happen until Wednesday. And this part of the week is when things kind of like slow down in a sense. So when we go over to the chart, the moon, as you see here, this will be later in the evening on Tuesday. The moon will be leaving a trine with Jupiter and then coming up to Pluto and Saturn. And this is where, with the moon and Taurus squaring all that Leo stuff, it's kind of like, do I want things this way or do I want things this way? How do I want to be, like, it's, your pride getting in the way of what you value. And sometimes that's hard to negotiate, to come together, to come to terms with. Well, as the moon moves forward and then starts applying to Jupiter and starts applying to Saturn while it's in Taurus, it's kind of like, hey, I do see a lot of fair game. I do see a lot of value. I do see a lot of stability, security. Sustainability is, I think, a really important word to use here. While the moon's in Taurus, trining Jupiter and Capricorn. Where Jupiter and Capricorn, this is something I've been riffing on forever now. There is a lack of abundance. Like Jupiter and Capricorn has to recycle. It's not that Jupiter and Capricorn wants to recycle because it's good for the earth. Jupiter and Capricorn has to recycle because that's how we get things under budget. And as the moon's in Taurus, like trining to Jupiter, it's like, hey, how can we find more sustainable ways to take on, like still have our, creature comforts, to still have the things that we want, to still have the things that, make us feel stable, that give us security. What can we do that's sustainable for that Jupiter and Capricorn to handle? What's going to be more realistic? What is something that's tangible and physical that can really, cement us or, ground us in what it is that we're doing? This is, when I say what you're doing, this can mean so many different things for so many of you, but I really focus the what are we doing on that Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, Mars square. Like whatever the Capricorn stuff is in your chart, which is something is changing, something has been changing drastically in your life and you're trying to get a handle on it. Mars in Aries, though, is kind of distracting and pulling you in another direction. This moon in Taurus is saying like, hey, this stuff that's been falling apart, this Capricorn stuff, like we can find ways to make it last longer, or as the building's kind of crumbling down, we've got new designs and new ways to build it even better for the next time, more sustainable, more eco-friendly ways. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. And I just think on Tuesday there's just going to be this grounded energy to it of kind of like, hey, this is what I want to build, this is what I value, this is what I'm trying to create, this is what this is what's sustainable in my life, so to say. So, and I just want to bring up, these are going to be really big questions that we ask ourselves for the next few months, because the next few months there's a lot of there's a lot of stopping, there's a lot of walls being put in the way, there's a lot of reversing, and so it's going to make us ask, like, what are we doing? Like, what do I actually value? Where do I actually have support? Where do I actually have structure? Like, so much is going to be changing, and so it's just important to really look at. In my opinion, I think it's really this month is kind of like the time where we get really reflective and philosophic before we start taking immense action. Because this next few months is, I mean, we're literally about to jump into it, and we've been talking about the last quarter of 2020 forever, and we're finally about to do it. And this last month of Leo season is just kind of like, let's reflect, let's get our hearts right for it, right? So as the moon's, I feel like I'm going a little bit too deep with this, but I just feel like it also needs to be said. While the moon's in Taurus, like, really ask yourself, where are you comfortable? What is going to make you feel grounded, secure? Because with Uranus and Taurus, that the idea of security is very volatile right now. Like, it's kind of hanging on a thread, and so it's not like what you used to call home, what used to be, so centered for you, isn't necessarily anymore. Things are kind of extreme, and so there's going to be you're going to have to kind of go out of your comfort zone in order to find that comfort again, if that makes sense. Anyway, I don't even know if I'm making sense. Wednesday, moon goes into Gemini. Now, this really is the only thing that's kind of going on as we get into Monday. Moon goes into Gemini. It eventually sextiles Mercury, eventually sextiles Mars and whatnot. But the thing that I wanted to put on here is, let's look at Mars real quick. Starting from Monday, well, let's start from Sunday. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It only moves 1 degree in those like 3 or 4 days. Mars is really starting to slow down now. Like, Mars is really starting to slow down now. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like I can't take enough naps throughout the day. But it's just the way it's hitting my chart. But with Mars slowing down at this level, you're going to feel really drained. You also have to look at this Mars squaring Saturn. This is literally like taking a little Honda Civic and towing like 2,500 pounds on the back, trying to go up a hill. Like, there is so much tension and so much pressure on little old Mars right here. Mars is just trying to go up the hill, and it's got to carry this big weight. And, Mars isn't going to make it the first time. It's kind of like the little engine that could. The little engine that could, if I remember correctly, because I'm pretty sure I actually looked this up not that long ago. The little engine that could went up and then failed and then came back down and then went up again. That's going to be like the Mars retrograde. And right now, we're getting to that point where you go, I don't think I'm going to make it up, and we're going to start moving backwards a little bit. This is where you start going like, oh yeah, we're not going to be making it up the hill. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be bad, but what I do think is that you're going to feel the weight of everything that you're pulling with you up that hill. What's in your load that you're taking up this hill? Like, can you even take that to the other side? And this is something I've been kind of lightly telling people with this like pandemic and this Mars retrograde stuff is like, whatever you don't want to take with you in this next like decade, like, leave it behind now. Like, I think this is a great opportunity. Like, we talk so much about, especially in this like in this day and age, we talk so much about like, cut this off, cut that off, fuck this, fuck that. Like, I don't always really support that, but I really think these next 3 months is like, cutting the fat off of the stuff that doesn't really, hold you back. What's old? Like, I mean, that's what the fucking astrology says. Like, it's not even like Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, the old systems and structures that we've done shit on forever. It's not working anymore. And Mars retrograde, it's like, you can't take a Ford Model T. If you guys don't know what a Ford Model T is, the first car ever, you can't take a Ford Model T and go on the 101 freeway and go, 75 miles an hour when there's no traffic. Like, you can't, that car can't do that. right? It's not designed for that. It's not meant for this era. So with this Mars retrograde, this is kind of like, why are you driving a Model T in 2020? You know what I mean? Where do you need to upgrade? Where do you need to, and this isn't necessarily even about upgrading. This is literally just about letting go of the old. Not even about upgrading or what's next or what you're going to do, but like what old ways and old systems or structures don't work anymore. And what are you doing to change that? Do you have old habits and routines and old character flaws that have haunted you forever that you're just like, are you going to hold on to them forever? Or are you going to do something with it? Those are just questions to ask. And as Mars is slowing down, this is why I brought this up, because as Mars is really slowing down, this has been happening, but I feel like by the time we get to Wednesday, it's like, oh yeah, Mars is fucking really coming to a halt. You're going to feel like you're coming to a halt. You're going to feel like you're going to hit a wall. And if, like, you're not ready for that, it's going to be shocking. Like, just trust me. Like, I always try to reflect on the past Mars retrogrades. So in recent history, we've had the past 2 Mars retrogrades. One was the summer of 2018. I want you guys to think about what was going on in the summer of 2018 for you guys. Let me know in the comments below. What was going on in the summer of 2018? It was Mars retrograde in Aquarius conjoining the South Node. This is so much like, I have to, like, let go of this. This is draining me and this no longer serves me. I have to go, like, be on my own. It was when the nodes were in Leo and Aquarius. So there was this sense of, like, individuality and then, like, connectedness with everybody else. And then if we go back before that, the Mars retrograde of the spring of 2016, that one was Mars conjoining Saturn and Sag, retrograde back into Scorpio. There was a lot of, kind of hitting a wall, but not even hitting a wall, hitting a limiter. Like, certain cars, they have them nowadays is like, they have like a RPM limiter to where like your car won't go past a certain speed, right? That was kind of like the Mars Saturn Sag retrograde. And then Mars went back in Scorpio and it was like fuck the limiter. Well, we're gonna go balls to the wall now. Think about those Mars retrogrades. What was that like? What were you building up for, and what just stopped? And with those Mars retrogrades, I mean, things stop, things change, but this Mars retrograde is like you're hitting a wall, you're coming to a stop. And we're going to have to go backwards a little bit. You're not going to make it up the hill the first time, so you're going to have to turn around and go down the hill and game plan for the next time. And to go back more to the specifics of Wednesday, as the moon's in Gemini, I feel like, it just goes without saying, our ideas are going to be going crazy. It's going to be easy to be chattier, talk about this, talk about that. Our minds are here, our minds are there. But I just think here too, I mean, this is almost too, this isn't exactly when Mars squares Pluto. Mars squares Pluto technically the next day on Thursday, which we're going to get to. But look, Mars is so close to squaring Pluto. It basically will square Pluto at this point. And that's actually what's going to lead us to Thursday. Let's talk about Thursday. Thursday, Mars squares Pluto, and the moon is going to make a sextile to Mercury while squaring Neptune. Funky little day. Whoops, hold on, wrong buttons. I've been pushing a lot of the wrong buttons lately. So let's talk about Mars square Pluto. So Mars square Pluto is really going to happen like early in the morning. Like we're basically going to wake up to Mars square Pluto. This is kind of like, okay, I'm going to make 2 analogies. One of them is for my millennials, and the other one, I guess, for my boomer audience, since you guys won't get this. Well, maybe you will. Do you guys remember the episode of SpongeBob where SpongeBob and Patrick wake up Sandy when she's in hibernation and she, like, pops the fuck off? That's kind of like Mars squaring Pluto. Like, it's what's funny about the episode, too, they don't even know. Like, they're just like, why is Sandy, like, fat laying in bed? And then they're like, they just like bug her, and then she like wakes up pissed, like, and then destroys everything. Like that's kind of like Mars squaring Pluto. Like what you're gonna push the wrong button at the wrong time. I think that's also a great analogy. I hope that analogy doesn't become literal in the geopolitical world, but as Mars squares Pluto, there's this energy of that wasn't a good idea, or that didn't feel good. I don't think that was cool. I don't think that's gonna be good. It's kind of like when you see, if you guys have done this before, because to go to the fireworks, the firework analogy. So if you guys have ever lit off fireworks, have you ever done the thing where you light the firework, and it's usually if it's like I forgot what it's called, the ball that goes up in the air, instead of it like shooting out of the tube and going really high, have you ever had it to where like it just shoots out the tube a couple feet and then there's like that 1 second moment between when the ball goes into the air and before it explodes and you just go, oh fuck, and it just bam, it explodes in your face. Like that's kind of like Mars squaring Pluto. And I think the explosions that, I mean, I don't think it's funny, the explosions that have happening lately, but it is ironic that this, like the Mars square Jupiter, that was like, we had that huge explosion in Lebanon, which was fucking insane to think that that even happened. But anyway, with Mars squaring Pluto, this is kind of like a like type of feeling. This is going to be like also there's going to be this feeling of but there's also the feeling of like power, right? Pluto is going to be ruling things like power structures, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction ruling things like authorities and basically power, right? Mars squaring it is like, what are you doing that is going like that can be going maybe against the grain, or that can be really like edgy. That's just, what are you doing that can be even really hardcore? Like Mars square Pluto is just like hardcore, no matter how you do it. Like no matter if it's bad or good, it's hardcore. And I think as Mars squares Pluto, it's like, what are you doing that is like that? And is it giving you an edge? Is it making you feel more powerful? Or what can you be doing that can make you feel more powerful? Because that's the other thing too. We talk sometimes, you know, I just hear the narrative that we talk about power like it's always a negative thing. And I just think in this day and age where our society could feel so powerless over, I mean, even our emotions, like we can't even control our emotions. We can't even control our environment. We can't control anything. It makes us very insecure. It makes us very weak. And I think that anything that gives us an edge, that makes us feel power, like power feels good, and power can really change a lot of shit. And I think something to ask yourselves here on Thursday is, what makes you feel powerful? You know, and is it because it's not this cliche shit. It's not, oh, you know, money, control, authority. It's something more within. And I think this Mars in Aries is really having us kind of focus on like the most purest of our intentions, the purest of our actions. Like, what does that actually look like to act authentically? What does that actually look like to, you know, be inspired to act? And I think as Mars squares Pluto, it just begs the question of like, is there something deeper to what we're doing? Do I have more meaning to what I'm doing? Is there more significance to what I'm doing? The moon's going to be squaring, the moon's going to be sextiling Mercury. So this is going to be a really good day to really have those conversations with yourself, to really get deep, because this is also Mercury in Leo. You know, like this is about authenticity. Mercury's about to conjoin the sun, which, by the way, this new moon in Leo, this shit that we're doing next week is when we gotta go. Like next week is basically, we're off to the races. Next week is we've got to be invested and fully committed to what we're kind of doing, or at least we have to be committed to the vision. You know, this is when we agree on the blueprints before we actually start production, is next week. So this week, this is the week to get real with yourself. This is the week to talk to yourself and to ask yourself these deeper questions. And as the moon on Thursday it is going to square Neptune, so there is going to be, you know, we only know what we know. We don't know what we don't fucking know. And so I think there's going to be a lot of not critical thinking. What's the problem solving? Like this is going to be a lot about projecting into the future and going like, hey, what problems are going to arise in the future and how can I combat that? As the moon sextiles Mercury, there's this sense of like, you know, is this what I want? Is this, you know, what I'm feeling? Is this authentic to who I am? And I just think Thursday is a really good day to really sit down and just to think about this shit. Just ask yourself the real fucking questions. I mean, I think you should be asking yourself the real questions every day, but I'm a Sag rising and I know everyone can't live that life. We go into Friday. I like Friday. I actually like Friday. You guys know me. I'm not the most fond of water signs, but I like Friday. Moon's going to go into Cancer and it's going to conjoin Venus. And if I pull up the chart here, if I pull up the chart, Moon goes into Cancer and starts conjoining Venus. And this is going to be later in the afternoon, right? Like the moon is going to be at the later degrees of Gemini first, makes a sextile of Mars, conjoins the North Node, then goes into Cancer. And this is just, after you have those conversations with yourself, this is also the dark moon phase. Like, the moon's getting ready to, become new again. The luminaries are focused on one part of the sky. The moon in Cancer is kind of going internal. Like, hey, what do I need? What do I trust? What needs to be taken care of? What is of necessity? Like, you guys know what the fuck. Like, we just got out of Cancer season. It's all I talked about, I feel like. As the moon goes into Cancer and starts conjoining Venus, though, there's this, like, tenderness to, like, Venus. I tweeted about this. Like, Venus in Gemini was fun, right? We got to have a lot of fun with people, and it's very social. But now Venus is in Cancer. Like the transition is, like, think twice before you cross my mind. But, like, Venus and Gemini is like, okay, we can have fun, flirt, do this, do that. Like, it was so funny reflecting Venus and Gemini, like, during the quarantine, everyone just learned something random. They were like, oh, I'm going to start making bread, or I'm going to start fucking going on fucking walks, or I'm going to learn this, or I'm going to learn that. Like, people just got into all of these random activities, like, kind of half-assed. But now as Venus goes into Cancer, it's kind of like, hey, like, we need trust. We need intimacy. And there has to be safety, right? There has to be a bond. There has to be a connection that's, like, encapsulated in things like, trust, and things like just openness, vulnerability. And I think as Venus is in Cancer, where this is what we value. Like, we're not valuing the Venus and Gemini lightness of things. Venus in Cancer is like, shit's kind of deep right now. Like, this actually matters and means something to me. As the moon's conjoining Venus, this is kind of going like, hey, I value and I want more of the tender. I value and want more of the safety, more of the security that Cancer has to offer. And if you look, like, that's kind of the only thing that's going on. The sun is going to be trining Mars, but we're going to be getting to that on the next day. But mostly for Friday, this is kind of going like the Thursdays. Like, we think about all this shit, we ask ourselves all these questions, and then we get into Friday, and it's like, all right, like, coming to terms with how we feel. Like, yeah, this is what I need to do. This is how I feel like what needs to get addressed. This is where, if you need a hug, tell someone you need a fucking hug. And this is like, I think we should all be social distancing, minding our business, basically staying as far away from each other as possible. But, like, we are humans. Like, something that I've been dealing with, because I work from home, I live at home alone. Like, I've been dealing with so much of, like, just not having human connection. And there's a certain point where you go, like, okay, do I need to, like, there's a certain point where you have to be safe, do your part with everything that's kind of going on. There's another human part to this where it's like, we need human connection. We need those bonds. We need that safety. And if you've got something like that right now, please know that there's people in this world that do not have that. So you're very lucky. But, like, on Friday, do what you need to do, right? Like, take care of who you need to take care of. And if that's you, great. If that's someone else, cool. Just take care of it, right? We get into this weekend, we get into Saturday. That's when the sun's going to actually make a trine to Mars, which is really important. And the moon is going to make an opposition to Jupiter as this trine happens. Quick drink of agua. So as we go into Saturday, and the sun trines Mars. So this is kind of the beginning. This is kind of the beginning of the end on August 15th. Not really the beginning of the end. Take my words with a grain of salt there. But the trine, the Sun-Mars trine, is basically the kickoff to the Mars retrograde. Mars eventually, basically the next aspect here is the sun will go into Virgo, Mars will quincunx the sun, and then Mars stations retrograde and starts moving backwards. This is where, when the sun trines Mars, we have the sun in Leo trining Mars in Aries. We're going to feel pretty damn good. We're going to be like, you know what? I'm the shit. I can do this shit. No one can tell me what the fuck to do. I'm in power. I'm in control. I'm in charge. I'm in, what do they say? I'm charged and large and in charge Marge or something like that. That's kind of like how Saturday goes. But I feel like Saturday is also kind of a time of recognition, of recognizing, like, hey, you are you. And, like, you are the most important thing in your life. What does that mean that you get to do? And with Mars in Aries, it's like, it's like, this is kind of a day where you realize, oh, you know what? I am really great. I am really important. I do matter, and this is also what I can do about it. Like, this is realizing the potential that you have, but acting out on that potential. Not just going, oh, wow, I have a lot of potential. It'd be nice to do something about it. This is going like, wow, I can do this. It's kind of like, if you're a kid and if you've struggled at something for a long time, and then maybe as a kid, you learn how to do it differently and you go, wow, I can do things. Or maybe as an adult, like you change something that you learned that you told yourself that you couldn't do as a kid. And as an adult, you go, wow, I can't believe I can do that. Like, there's so many things, like, just as a quick share, like, fuck, in my adult life, there's so many things where I did as a kid that I just thought I could never, do. It has to be this way. I can't do anything else. And then as an adult, I do it, and I'm like, whoa, that was so easy. Why did I make that so hard? And just as an adult, you can change, anything in your life. And I feel like those moments where you realize that you have power over your life, you have control over what you do. This Sun trine Mars is realizing that, like, actualizing, going like, wow, like looking at your hands, being like, I can change something. I can do something about this. Mars is motionless, right? And this is the Sun trining it. The Sun, I think, is just acknowledging Mars and saying, hey, Mars, if you want to bust through this Saturn-Pluto stuff, you can. I just think the Mars squaring Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter stuff, like, it's going to be hard. But this is going to be the day where we get the confidence to do it, at least. And that confidence is a really big stepping stone into everything else that we have to go to. Anyway, the moon also will be separating from Venus, and later that night be applying to Jupiter in an opposition where, again, this is where we go, Jupiter in Capricorn. This is what I have versus the moon in Cancer. This is what I need. That's a hard thing to do, to reconcile, to reconcile with your needs with what you have. And if you can't always fill your needs, and especially in this time, like, not everyone right now can even take care of their needs, which is just fucked up. We live in the fucking 21st century. Not everyone can take care of their needs, especially here in America. But this is one of those days where you might go like, hey, what do I have versus what do I need? And not what do I have of like the haves and have nots. Like, Jupiter and Capricorn is very much like, what do I have available to me? Like, what resources and tools do I have? What's a realistic vision, a plan that I can make? And the moon in Cancer is like, Jupiter in Capricorn wants to be conservative. Jupiter in Capricorn, it's not about dreaming big. Jupiter in Capricorn is just about dreaming of what's real, or what can be real. And sometimes that's about dreaming small. You can dream big, and those stuff that can be real too. But I just feel like it's a little bit easier to dream, a little bit smaller, it's quicker to get your goal. But with the moon in Cancer, it's just about a time of reflecting of, hey, like, what do I need? If this is what I have, what do I need? And this is just a time of kind of, looking at that. I don't necessarily think it's too much more than that. But the moon will be separating from Venus, applying to Jupiter. So it will be a pretty positive day, in my opinion. There's a lot of positive energy, a lot of powerful energy. It just seems like very, like, the moment before a big, like, if you're watching like TV, like if you're watching some dramatic TV show, and there's always like some monologue before I'm thinking of, like, there's got to be an episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender that does this, because I feel like that's what my mind's going to. But like, this is a day, like Saturday is a day. It's like the big long monologue before the big fight, like where one person has a monologue with someone else, and then on the other side, that person has a big long monologue with somebody else, or vice versa. Like, that's what Saturday looks like before the big event, before the big climax. But then we go into Sunday, and the sun's still going to be trining Mars. This is lasting throughout the whole weekend, mind you. And then the moon's going to be making an opposition to Pluto and Saturn, which Sunday, I'm assuming you're probably going, wow, that kind of changes the flavor really quick. It does change the flavor. As the sun's trining Mars, there's still this realization. I'm not saying sun trines Mars, you're going to go and do everything, right? Sun trining Mars, there's a realization that becomes a fuel, and you're going to need that for later. It's not a thing that you use right now. It's a thing that you're going to have to remember for the next few months, that you can do this, that you are capable, that you are worthy. You're going to have to really remember that. It's going to be really hard to remember that stuff here in the next few months. So just remember it now. Feel it now. However, the moon makes an opposition to Pluto and Saturn, where shit gets way more real. This is where, Jupiter in Capricorn is kind of a little bit more optimistic, being like, hey, this is what I have and this is what I need. I can kind of finagle something or, do something to get myself out of this. No biggie. The moon making opposition to Pluto and Saturn is like, oh, actually, this is kind of like a lot more intense than I thought. And actually, I'm going to have to give up some of the things that I did have in order to just take care of what I need to take care of. There's a lot of, one word that keeps coming up to my mind so much with this Mars retrograde, and especially like this day too, is sacrifice. Not letting go, but straight up sacrifice. Like, what are you sacrificing? And this isn't necessarily like, and not talking about like sacrifice, like, killing like a animal to sacrifice to a god, but like, what are you literally like having to go without? What are you having to give up almost in a sense? And this can be a good give up. This can be a bad give up. I think it kind of just depends on your chart. But this moon in Cancer opposite Saturn, this is the battle between my needs versus what is the reality, can I go without? Is this something I really need, or am I just telling myself I need that? And and these are questions to ask yourself. This isn't something for me to decide for you or the astrology to decide. This is something that you've got to go, okay, in my life, what are my needs versus what is the reality of what I'm going through right now? But at the end of the day, there is this sense of, this is also the moon squaring Mars before it makes that opposition to Saturn. Like, there is this cut. It's kind of like when you get your paycheck and you like, I don't know if you guys ever done this. I've done this like 3 times. I've gotten a payday loan, which never get a fucking payday loan, no matter how bad it is. And it's like when you get a payday loan and you got to pay that shit off and you get a paycheck, and like a fat part of your paycheck has to go to these motherfuckers. And it's like, that's kind of like this moon square Mars opposite Saturn. It's like, got to cut half that paycheck and give it to this, piece of shit loan shark company. It's a very brutal feeling. It's a very real feeling. And on Sunday, it can make you feel insecure. It can make you feel weak too. But I think what's going to be important though is remaining strong in this moon in Cancer opposite Saturn. Like if you're going to be real, you got to just be real as fuck right now. Like, you cannot be, and I feel like I don't even have to say that, because if we look at this world right now and in this moment in time in history, like, shit's pretty real, shit's pretty raw. At least if you're paying attention, shit's pretty fucking crazy right now. And this just isn't a time to, this is really a time to look at like shit not through a 21st century lens of like, oh, everything's great, everything's amazing, but like, what's reality right now? What is moving? Like, what actually fucking matters in this life? Because that's another thing I think with this whole coronavirus stuff. It's like, we're really asking ourselves, like, what is actually important in our lives? What actually matters to us? And I think this week this week's very philosophic with that. I think this week is very. This week's just about getting real with your intentions, with your actions. It's kind of like, this is kind of like you got to have to risk it for the biscuit for the next few months. And this week is really about getting real with yourself of like, oh, that means if I have to risk it for the biscuit, that's what this is going to look like for the next few months. And that's it. That's this week. I want to say something this next week, because listen, hold on, I need some water. Next week, again, I'm pretty sure I said this at the beginning, but I might have said it on my first take because this is my second take. Next week, Mercury Cazimi, new moon in Leo, Venus sextile Uranus, Mercury goes into Virgo, the Sun goes into Virgo, and Mars squares Saturn. Next week's crazy. Next week is like, if this week is the monologue that we have with someone that's really important in our lives before the big war, like, next week is like the week that like we're getting battle ready. And I'm using these words specifically because like if you look at the chart, like there's so much war analogy you can get from this. And personally, I think you're going to see some more stuff pop off. We'll see. I don't want to make any predictions out loud yet. But this week, just get real with yourself, guys. I mean, I know you already have been, but this week is just a little bit different. Realize your power, realize your worth, realize what you can do, and just know that, like, this week, like I said, it's going to feel like you're hitting the brakes and you're starting to go forward a little bit more. Like a good way, or another analogy, it's like the little engine that could going up that hill. This is that moment where you're going up that hill going, I don't think I can make it on the top. I can make it past this hill on the first go. We're going to need a second go. That's what the Mars retrograded. We're going to move backwards, and the Mars is going to station direct, and we're going to try it again. But now that we're going up the hill, we're kind of going, yeah, I'm going to have to turn around. So don't be afraid to turn around. With that being said, I don't really have anything else to talk about, I guess. So yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for joining me this week, liking. God, 40 fucking minutes. Jesus. Thank you guys for spending a whole 40 minutes listening about a weekly horoscope. I appreciate you guys being here. I love every single one of you guys. Let me know in the comments below what was going on for those Mars retrogrades in 2018 and 2016 for you guys. Let me know in the comments below. Yes, please like this. It super helps me out on my channel. And yeah, I will be seeing you guys next week.